Good morning. Happy Friday today. Friday. Thank God it's Friday. So today is Friday. Today is Aquan Open Day. Day that used to be a huge day for me in my life. This is my transition week in my life. Major transitions in my life have always happened this week, going back to when I was a kid. I'm not sure why, but this is always my transition week. And today is my 10-year anniversary of quitting drinking. Last time I had a drink was 10 years ago today. First time in my life that I drank half a beer and then set it down, and then I was done. So how did I do that? Well, the first thing that I did is I made a decision. I decided that I was going to completely change my physical body. I was in the middle of a personal financial crisis. I was under a tremendous amount of pressure and stress. It was all financial stress, but I was still under tremendous financial stress. And I'm like, if I'm going to survive this, I'm going to have to live at a completely healthier lifestyle than I've been living. And quite frankly, it was the lifestyle that I'd always wanted to live. So I first made a decision. I'm gonna quit drinking. I'm gonna do some massive pattern interrupts. So first thing that I did was decide. Second thing that I did was I got my why, and I really made it an absolute must. I said to myself, if I don't do this, I'm gonna die. I mean, and I wasn't exaggerating with everything that my law partner and I were dealing with. I'm like, if I don't do this, I will die. I'm going to have a stroke. I'm going to have a heart attack. I mean, it's just too much. So number one, I made a decision. Number two, I got my why, and I made it an absolute must. I got huge leverage. So then the third thing I did is I did a massive pattern interrupt. So I went to this event that I've gone to for years and years, and it's an event that for a long time revolved primarily around drinking and around alcohol. And as a matter of fact, other friends of mine who I didn't go through a program, but I certainly have been around people who have, and other friends of mine in program stopped going to this event just because it was so much related to alcohol. So I didn't drink. I drank a half a beer and then I was done. And then I did a massive pattern interrupt. So from tomorrow on, I did a 30-day juice fast. Quit drinking. I think I quit drinking coffee. Quit drinking anything, and I did fruit and vegetable juices for 30 days. So number one, I decided. Number two, I got my why. I got my leverage. And then number three, I did a massive pattern interrupt. I completely changed everything that I was eating and drinking for 30 days. While I was doing that for 30 days, I started running. I hadn't run in I don't know how long. And I'm probably about 180, 185 right now. And I was probably over 250. So I was, pretty easily 60 pounds heavier than I am right now. So I started running. So, I mean, you can imagine what that looked like. And I did that every 3 days a week and then on Saturdays. And on Saturday, I would go to work and I would work till later in the day. And then I would run as far as I could go. And then I would walk back. And I ended up, it wasn't long, and I was doing like 8-9 miles. And because I could sleep, because then on Saturday night, I would come home and I would sleep. It would burn off the stress. And I also did damage to my body over time. I got tendonitis in my Achilles, and I did some other stuff. But it started to make a huge difference, between the running and the juice fast. Obviously, I started having significant physical changes, but my head started to become clear. I had more energy. I was calmer. I was able to think. I was able to concentrate. I was able to, think through everything that we had going on. And at the end of the 30-day juice fast, I went back to eating, but, I kept a lot of that. So I kept a lot, I now had the ability to instill new patterns. This is also the time when I started doing a morning routine. I would get up in the morning and I started listening. I'd always listened to Tony Robbins, but I started listening to what was I going to do? I set my outcome as a result of all of this. So the fourth thing that I did is I made a decision as to where I was headed. So I stopped focusing on what was going on. I needed to solve the problem, but I started focusing on what am I going to create? What's the outcome that I'm going to create? So step number one, I made a decision. Step number two, and remember, decision comes from the Latin incision, where we cut off, where we don't have any other option. Number two, I got leverage. Number three, I did a massive pattern interrupt. And then number four, I set a goal as to where I was headed. Because I was dealing with such a major problem, we can end up where we get lost in the problem, where that's all that we talk about, that's all that we focus on. And one of my Tony Robbins buddies was the guy that got me focused on that. We get wrapped up telling our story, right? So I was telling him about it. And his name's Ralph Zuckerman. I'm still friends with him to this day. And he was standing there with his arms crossed, and he looked at me and he was like, okay, this sucks. I get it, but get over it. Dude, you got all the skills. Go back there and fix it. What are you going to do to fix it? What a gift. I mean, what a tremendous gift. I mean, I remember standing there with my eyes rolling around trying to figure out what to do. And then I'm like, okay, I got to go fix it. Well, I figured out, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to need to create X dollars. And I had one case, that had the potential to be a very big case. And I'm like, okay, I have to make X dollars from this case. I have to do the perfect job on this case, which I owe to my clients anyway, but this is the way that I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to create X amount of financial return by doing a perfect job for my clients. This is the case that's going to take me out of this mess. And all I did was focus on that outcome. And when I had to look at the problem and deal with it, I did. I only dealt with it in a way to solve what I needed to solve. Otherwise, I left the problem and focused on where I was headed. And it took a while for it to turn around. I mean, you don't turn the Queen Mary on a dime. I mean, once we started down this path, we went down that path for a while. And for a while, even after I'd made all these decisions and done all of this stuff, I was still in quicksand. Everything that I did, it was like I sunk further and further and further. And that kept going into the fall. That kept going past the first of the year. So, were there times where I'm looking at this going, man, is this ever going to work out? Yeah, there was. And then at Thanksgiving, things started to change a little bit. And then in January and February, things started to change in a little bit. And then by the spring, results started happening. And at that point, I'm now down, 30 pounds at least. Obviously, I'm feeling much better. I'm looking much better. My energy is much better. My ability to focus and concentrate and think are much better. But I had to continue to focus on that outcome. And trust me when I tell you that there were many days where I got up and I'm like, man, am I ever gonna start coming out of this? Are we ever gonna start actually finding some results? And it ended up taking another year. It took about a year and a half from when everything happened. Took about a year and a half from when everything happened before finally the outcome that I had dedicated to actually happened. But in the meantime, after about 6 or 8 months, then things started to get better and better and better and better. And the momentum started. So the point being, if you're going to make a massive change, how do you do it? Number one, you decide. Number two, you get leverage. Make it a must. For me, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. Number three, interrupt your pattern. Stop doing what you're doing, do a massive pattern interrupt. For me, that was the juice fast. That was quitting drinking. That was starting to run. I hadn't run. I'd always exercised, but I hadn't run forever. Starting to run and starting a new process of where am I headed? Then number four, set your new goal. Where is it that you're going to go? And then figure out specifically what you want and then why. And make that a must. which I did again. I'm going to create this financial result or I'm going to die. Now, when I first quit drinking, I didn't really think I was going to quit for the rest of my life. I initially stopped. I didn't necessarily quit. But as life kept going, I realized, it's so much better without this, that this is just a complication that doesn't make life better for me. It makes life worse. I'm not good at moderation at all. Whatever, when I'm going to eat or drink something or do something, I do it 1,000%. So that's why doing things like, focusing on practicing law, focusing on Tony Robbins events, focusing on running businesses, focusing on health and exercise is a good idea because, don't try to be an addict, get addicted to things that are healthy. That was my decision. Stay away from things that are unhealthy. So after a while, after a couple of years, and I created this financial result, I looked at it and I said, well, I'm just not going to go back to alcohol. And so 10 years ago today is when I decided to stop. And then sometime after that, a couple of years after that is when I decided to quit. The thing that I think, you learn from this experience is you got to decide specifically what it is that you want. You got to make a decision. Focus on where you're going. Focus on that outcome. Don't focus on the problem. Only spend, 5% of your time on the problem. Spend 95% of your time on the solution, which is that outcome. Number 2, do a massive pattern interrupt. Completely change what it is that you're doing. And you might change it again and again. The juice fast worked for a while, and then I've gone through, I don't know how many different ways of eating in order to get to, where I am. And even now, I know things are going to change as I move forward. I ended up going to a holistic doctor, and I ended up doing all kinds of other stuff. But I started the process, and then you just adjust as you go along. Are you getting the result that you want or not? If not, then change your approach. But if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's the definition of what? Insanity. And so that's not going to ever do anything. I mean, let's start a different diet every Monday. That doesn't work. And then still go out on the weekends and go to the bar and do this and do that. You're not going to change your life doing that. You're going to have the same results. And you can't eat healthy for 3 days and expect to undo years of problems. If your finances are in a terrible position, okay, then go from here. You're not going to change those overnight typically. It's possible, but typically it's going to take time in order to do that stuff. If you want to have a child, you don't get there quicker by having 9 women pregnant. It's still going to take 9 months for the kid to arrive. So you've got to understand as you're going towards this new goal, it's going to take a minute. I kept sinking into that quicksand for months because I was still dealing with the backlash of not doing what I should have been doing in the past. So it took a while for it to hit bottom and start finally coming out. But the great news is once you make those decisions and you start down these new processes, it doesn't take long and you're never going to go back. Remember, it only takes a couple of weeks to start a new habit. And once you start that new habit, even if you leave it for a short period of time, you're going to go back to the new stuff. You're not going to go back to the old stuff. I mean, the chances of me ever having, I could care less about alcohol, about ever having a drink again. I could care less about going back to that old lifestyle. I watch what I used to do, and there was a time where I can't imagine life outside of that. But now I look at that whole thing, I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine living that life for me anymore. So a long video today, and I'm traveling over the next couple of days, so my videos are going to be a little more sporadic. I apologize about that. But on this anniversary for me, this is one of those big days that you remember. I wanted to share with you how you do this process. If you want to make a massive change in your life, whatever it is, the process is the same. Make a decision. Cut off any other option. Interrupt, get your why, get your leverage as to why this becomes a must, and it has to become a must. Once it becomes a must, then you're going to find a way. Don't worry about the how, worry about the why. Number 3, interrupt your pattern. Do a massive pattern interrupt. Never leave the sight of the goal without taking an action. Then figure out where you're headed. Where are you going specifically, and start taking action towards that. And then just see if you're getting closer or not. Take massive action towards it. Are you getting closer or are you getting further away? If you're getting further away, then change your approach. The way to make it faster, model. Find somebody else who's done it, who's produced the same results, and do exactly what they do, and you'll produce the same results. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other. I will be doing videos over the next 10 days, but I'm going to go tonight. I'm in Milwaukee to see the Foo Fighters, and then I fly out to see Katie, and then I fly back, and then I go out to Maine. So my videos are going to be a little sporadic over the next couple of days. I apologize. But I am going to go through that thing on how to problem solve, which is amazing. So I will post that. So some of my videos might not be live. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.